Phil, I'll begin with you. We loved last week when we were under 1 million claims. I know it's just a number, it's a psychological number, but the continuing claims were good news. What do you make of it? And how long does it last?
Yeah, so this is kind of what I've been waiting for is where is the friction point from kind of the bounce back from things opening back up versus the longer term damage that the economy's experienced because of the overall shutdown and kind of some of the restricted access to some of the retail and accommodation and food service industries. I think we're starting to see that. I don't know that I would say we're there just yet. It still feels a bit heavy in terms of 1 million. Because remember, we're 4 or 5 times the number that we saw before, prior in 2019. One of the things that you're also seeing, though, too, is the seasonality is starting to play a factor here. And it did in 2009 as well, where the numbers kind of go a little haywire because the seasonality really just doesn't apply in these rather volatile employment situations. So if you take the seasonality out, we're at 800 and some, I think it said. So, and year over year, it's still very heavy, obviously, but maybe there's some math in there too that could be adjusted.
Right. Mark, what do you think when you looked at the numbers this morning? We've gotten in so many different pieces of economic data, and how do you tie it in?
Well, you're right, Nicole. It is a number, but these are numbers that are associated with human lives. And whether there's a margin of error that is relevant, certainly there is, but we're not that far off. And the implied unemployment rate from this is roughly 10.2%. We may get a better number for the month of August when we get into September and get the monthly employment report. But I think that the danger here from, let's just say, a human standpoint is that we become used to these numbers. By my count, it's been 12 weeks since we slipped below 2 million, and we've had 1 week that was below 1 million. So we have slipped into a severe range here. And obviously, the hope is that we can make more progress sooner rather than later. Maybe the fact that we now see states take it seriously, that masks should be worn, we're beginning to dampen some of the COVID numbers out there, but it's not off to the races. It's not time to check off mission accomplished.
Right, absolutely. So what do you think needs to be done? My concern here, Mark, is that those who have been furloughed, that time off may become permanent. And that's the concern, right, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. There was just a story today out of HMS Host, which is the company behind many of the stands that we see in airports, keeping those newspaper stands and places to buy bottles of water, et cetera, and the restaurants that are licensed in there. They're now looking at moving their temporary layoffs into permanent mode. And I think that is an example how this long-running economic downturn, the extent of which we've never experienced in our lifetimes, is taking a toll that is going to be, if not permanent, more intermediate term. And so this is essentially the price for having a long-lasting pandemic and the economic outcomes of that being what we now know to be unfortunate and heartbreaking.
Phil, I can't say it's all bad news, though, right? I mean, we've gotten in some great news, everything from housing, continuing claims, as I mentioned earlier, are going in the right direction. We've seen some areas of growth. Tell me what your thoughts are on this balance. It's such a delicate balance going forward. What do you think you're seeing here going forward? It's hard to give a future forecast, but try.
Yeah, sure. It certainly is, because you don't know where this thing's going to go, even in the next 3 months, much less the next 6 months. If you kind of start to look back at the 1918 Spanish flu, you see a similar infection pattern here. So, if you try to use that as a delimiter, we could probably start to see positive cases going down. Maybe that frees us up a little bit, gives us a little breathing room. But even in that situation, there was a third surge of cases, which I think everybody's kind of waiting for that to happen too. So it really is very unpredictable. But what I can say is you don't get back to where we were without going through here. And we kind of all knew that at some point we were going to reach a friction point with the rapid job growth we saw after the reopening, and then through on to more normal economic growth as we pull out of the economic doldrums that have been created here. It's going to be a pretty long ride from here, I think.
Well, the thing is, when you talk about it being a long ride, I mean, the thing is, as we start to get some more medication, whether it's drugs to contain coronavirus or slow its trail in your body, that the vaccine is key. Mark, what are your thoughts on how that could affect our economy? I mean, when can we get back to what we were?
It depends what we're measuring, Nicole. For the broadest part of the economy, it's going to be some time. And we know that, as with the behavior of the stock market, this has been a tale of two cities among equities, as it's been a tale of two cities among Americans, those who are able to work from home, those who have actually seen their incomes stable, if not doing better, helped by wealth generated by stocks, and those who have no access to all that, including the work from home option. So the worry is, of course, that we've exacerbated income inequality and wealth inequality as well. But there are obviously going to be opportunities out there, but there's also going to be this bifurcation of the haves and have-nots, and that's the opportunity and the risk for investors.
Right. So when you look at this, Phil, what's your final thought? We only have a minute or so left. When you're trying to look at what's going on with the stimulus, they can't seem to reach an agreement, and we really need it, right?
Yeah, I think we absolutely do.
Or do we?
I think it's made, what we've experienced a lot better than it could have been. We need to ease ourselves back into positive economic growth here, and we need that stimulus to continue to support and provide us some stable flooring from which to build. We're not out of this thing yet. A vaccine certainly could change the game dramatically, but a spike in infections could also. Certainly, with the use of masks and social distancing becoming more prevalent, we're getting a hold of this thing, and I think we're all starting to take it a bit more seriously, which is great. But in order to get out of this, we're going to have multiple pieces of structure here, including that stimulus. It's very important that they get it done.
Yeah. And Mark, I'll give you the final thought. I mean, we have certain sectors that really are doing great and booming and suffering. Yeah. Last thought, Mark.
Yeah. This is a time to pick winners and losers. We're seeing a rapid acceleration of that. And that's, fostering innovation as well as some damage to parts of our economy.